WesWes show.
I think it was a marvellous result for Moana Pasifika, their maiden season into Super Rugby. First time that a Pasifika franchise has played Super Rugby, and it's been sort of the dream of many rugby legends, including Brian Williams and Sir Michael Jones, part of the background in relation to getting that team their berth in Super Rugby this year. So to get a result like that, I think they went. They were expecting to not only make up the numbers in the competition this year, but also to try and make as big an impact and cement, the more the reason as to why they've been left out for so long. And so to get a win over a well-established franchise like the Hurricanes is no mean feat. So it was a brilliant result. Their defense all night was awesome. Obviously, people could say a little bit about the Hurricanes not playing their best sort of lineup at the beginning, but they had some of the heavy hitters come into the game towards the end of the game. But when they put on Danny Twala at the end there, I think I wasn't sure what the thinking was about not having him start the game, because he's been one of the most impactful sort of players from Moana Pasifika since their introduction to the competition. So great to see him come on and make the impact that he did, and for him to score that try. Just we were excited here in our lounge, me and my son, but I could see at the stadium as well. Just great to have a crowd there as well, and for them to be able to witness that live, the first ever Super win for Moana Pasifika. So I think it's been good in garnering a little bit more support, especially getting the restrictions dropping. Who knows what could happen on Tuesday night against the Blues?
Yeah, good thoughts there, Roger. I agree with all of that. I agree about Danny Tuala. He's been a surprise package. He hasn't played a lot of Super Rugby. He was with the Hurricanes for a bit, but I know they've got quite a lot of good young midfielders there. So he got pushed down the order a little bit. But once he's got his opportunity with Moana Pasifika, he's been awesome. And him and Aumua together have got a really good combination. So he showed a quite good speed there to get that last try. I know they've got another game tomorrow against the Blues, so that short turnaround might have meant maybe they held him back to potentially play him on Tuesday. I've got the team list here somewhere, so I might have to confirm that. But yeah, definitely good win. And I like that point you made earlier about, a lot of people would have thought of Moana Pasifika and the Fijian Drua as a team that just there to sort of make up the numbers. But this win shows that they are legitimate. I thought that first game against the Crusaders, they were at least quite competitive as well. So they're not this sort of guaranteed team that's going to be an easy beat like the Sunwolves. And, when you look at it took the Sunwolves 21 games to beat sort of a non-expansion team, which was the Chiefs.
Was it the Blues? The Blues, I think it was the
Chiefs.
Blues.
It was the Chiefs. It was actually the Chiefs. So Moana Pasifika and Fiji and Draw only took them 3 games to sort of get their first win, and that augurs well for the rest of the tournament. But just going back to the game, I talked about Aumua and the impact he's had. He had that yellow card. So I know in our chat and some of the stuff, there was a bit of controversy there. What are your thoughts, mate? I know you're still involved in the game at quite a decent level. That yellow card?
No, I didn't think it was a yellow card, because if it was a head-on head, if they were making the tackle, then I can understand. But there's been many. There was something in the rugby league last night where I saw there was a head-on collision from the ball carrier in the Manly Bulldogs game, and yet I guess it's different codes, but I don't think there was anything malicious, and there was no intent for Levi Aumua to hit him with his head. But it's just the way that he's made a last-minute step to the left and causing Aumua, where he was trying to position his head for the tackle, and there's been heads collide there. Yet for a yellow card, I don't know. If it was a head-high tackle, I can understand, but head-on-head, it wasn't like a shoulder or an arm connecting with the head. So, yeah, I was a bit dumbfounded by that ruling. And obviously it put Moana Pasifika on the back foot, but just meant that the team had to pick up and try and hold out the Hurricanes, which they did in the end. And it was their defense right throughout. And I saw the frustration that was caused because of their defense right throughout their game. Even Gibson, the old Blues player playing at number 7, uh, he was getting frustrated. And then Xavier Numia, the prop, one of the starting prop for the Hurricanes, he every time he ran, it seemed like I was expecting his figures to be in negative 105 or something like that, because every time he got slammed back in the defense, there was always 2 or 3 tacklers pushing back each runner. And so that was awesome by the Moana Pasifika. So they garnered a lot, and especially how they've had an interrupted sort of beginning to this super journey where they've had COVID and they've had games postponed. So it sees us in this predicament that they're in now, where they have to play 3 games or 6 games in the next 3 weeks. So it's going to test the depth of their squad, but again, it pretty much explains why they rested Danny Tuala, I guess, and he's one of their gun players, and I think they just injected him at the right time, and hopefully they got the Blues twice this week on Tuesday and then on Friday, so it'll be interesting whether they can sort of repeat some of the feats here. And the Blues, will they be going to Eden Park with their tails between their legs, or are the Blues going to teach them a lesson or two?
Yeah, yeah, good thoughts there. I agree. I've been 50-50 on that yellow card. I understand what they're trying to do because, concussion is such a massive thing in the game. But you're right. Head on head, that's obviously just some incidental contact. Sort of like he's running 100 mile an hour and then you just fraction of a second your head gets in the wrong place. So you can definitely say there's no malice in there. You could end up hurting yourself more if you try to do that. So it was a rough call, and I felt they got a couple of rough calls throughout the game. For them to overcome that. Now, you talked about league, and I'm a Warriors supporter. If you go on the Warriors fan page, they say every week the refs are against them and all the rest of it. So I don't want to go into more conspiracy theories for Moana, but yeah, I thought they got some rough calls, and that was just one of them. So for them to overcome that and still pick up the win, you could see it, when the full time whistle went, how much it meant to them. So good on them for there. But you touched on something really interesting, which I want to go on a bit further about the depth, because that upcoming schedule is really going to test it. So I think, this is where it gets a bit interesting, because their first team with Tuala and Aumua and all these other guns, Stowers and that, I think that first team can match it with anyone. It's how good the second lot of guys are. So there's some guys who haven't played a lot who'll be playing this game this week. Visinia, who we've talked about previously on the podcast, I think he's getting a run. D'Angelo, another guy who I'm a huge fan of, is getting a run as well. So just I wanted you to sort of, what are your thoughts on the depth? Do you think that they've got enough guys there that they'll be able to manage this next phase? Because this is going to be a crucial phase for Moana Pasifika, this next congested schedule.
Yeah, I guess all that the coaches have is the reputation of these players from the little experience that they've had at super level for the different franchises before Moana Pasifika, like the Danny Tuala, or even some of these guys that they've only got Mitre 10 experience. So but then you've got guys like Lolangi Visinia, who hasn't featured yet for Moana Pasifika. You've got Nico Jones, who's come off a couple of seasons with the Auckland team. D'Angelo from the Magpies. So he's getting a stint. He's going to get some game time on Tuesday. So I guess it's managing, because they've still got a lot of players that haven't had any game time who are biting at the bit to try and get some, to put up their hand and to get picked and get their super debuts underway. But I guess that's where they have to manage it, because now they've got a cluster of players who have now been the bulk of their selections. And obviously, with the attrition rates that they hopefully can avoid, they've got these fresh guys who are chomping at the bit to get a start or to get some game time. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see Nico Jones in the next few weeks, in the next couple of weeks. Lolangi Visinia, who can play right across from, I think the centre to wing and fullback as well. And then there's a few young Lucy's that will probably get a chance as well. So I think it'll be interesting how they do that and how they inject it. So you got the Blues, real short turnaround now, tomorrow night, and then Blues again on Saturday. And if there's any injuries, Ray Nuia made some impact off the bench as well, and he had some good throws in the lineout. So he's now obviously you know within this inexperienced Moana Pasifika team, he's a seasoned veteran because he's had a stint with the Highlanders. He's been with the Blues, so he's coming in with a bit more experience in a lot of these players. So, those are the kind of guys that you want to sort of rely on. And I think Ray Nuia would be excited to have a go at his old franchise now, having been there last year and the year before. So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah, good point you raised there about the opportunity for some of these young guys, and they'll be ready. Although I'm not sure if they'll be ready, but they'll be hungry for that opportunity. So I know for Moana Pasifika being a startup, they're sort of getting a whole lot of host of players who haven't played Super Rugby before, and there's got a lot of doubters. So they're sort of pushing it uphill already to then get the rough schedule due to COVID. It's sort of another tough thing for them to overcome. But it's going to be an interesting period, like I mentioned before, because that's going to sort of essentially define their season, how they can get through these next sort of
Yeah,
cluster of
and it might
games.
be tough,
So
but I think there was someone uh, during the week that posted up an article about likening it to the parallels of the Manu Samoa squad getting very little game time, turnaround time at a Rugby World Cup. And I think it's a little bit different. It's no one planned it to be this way. It's the best that they could come up with, I suppose, given the circumstances around COVID. So I don't think it was preempted for it to be such short turnarounds within a short time frame for them to play this many games. But it is what it is. They're just going to have to just get along and deal with it because it could have happened to any team. It just happened to be the Moana Pasifika team that got hit with COVID and a few games got postponed. And when they said they were going to put it down to later, I was just more worried about my Rocky Soliola Cup picks as to how they're going to manage all that. Because then,
yeah.
what does that mean? Do we get to choose these Moana Pasifika teams players for tomorrow as well as Saturday? I don't know. Is the Rocky Soliola
Mm.
Cup ready for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, really good questions there. I might have to check my picks again, both with that information. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and I do think that they're going to step up. I've got some faith in them, and just from myself as being a fan, there's not much to watch during the week. Sometimes on TV, so to have a midweek fixture, I'm not really complaining. It's tough on the players, and it's tough on Moana Pasifika in particular because they're the team who has got the short end of the stick in this occasion. But yeah, from a neutral sort of fan, yeah, to have a game during the week to watch, yeah, cool. I'll take it. I'll take it. So
When you look back, and I think the last time we had midweek games was when the French or when the British Irish Lions were touring, and they had some midweekers there for us to sort of get our teeth into. But I think even going back even to last year, and the way the Mitre 10 Cup is being scheduled now, or the ITM Cup as it was before that, is that they do have midweekers, yet they do have short turnaround. So the bulk of these players being from that background have only played Mitre 10 or NPC level. They're going to be no stranger to the short turnarounds or having these midweeker games. So I think they're going to be excited because as a rugby player, you prefer to play rather than train. Training is a byproduct of it, but you'd rather get more excited and you get up and going for a game as opposed to training, so to speak. Despite the fact that it's a professional game, it's part of their job. But yeah, so it should be interesting to see. They'll be wanting to put up selections, and they'll probably wanting to rest as well. The management are going to be do the best that they can to be smart about who plays one week and who plays the next, but at the same time managing that the real crucial experience because it can only build for them later on and into the later rounds of the competition, especially when they head over to Australia.